Welcome to the Tool Review channel. Today we're taking a look at the Milwaukee Lineman pliers. Now the model number for these is 48226100. And to start off the video here, now as of the time of this video, Milwaukee does now make these Lineman pliers with the dipped handles. As you can see here, I have the comfort grip version of the Lineman pliers, but they do make a dipped version of the handles as well. But for the comfort grip version, you can see you have the Milwaukee name kind of a small part up there, but then the rest of the handles are kind of plain, but they are like a nice cushiony rubber. So it does feel good in the hands. And then on the inside of the handles, it is a little bit hard to see, but you do have some safety warnings. You know, always wear eye protection and never use on a live circuit because the tool will not protect you. And then coming up to the business end of the tool, you can see you have the crimper right there. You have the Milwaukee tool, or the Milwaukee name laser etched onto there. And then you have your model number 48226100. And you have your rivet right there, which is a high leverage design with that rivet being close. It's a combination of the rivet being close to the cutting edge and the long handles. It's going to allow you to cut through material a lot easier than if the rivet was set back on the plier. And you can see, you have to flip the tool over, you can see you have a nice cutting edge right there, and you have some more safety warnings laser etched onto the surface. I'm not really sure why Milwaukee chose to put their name on like the back side of the tool instead of the front side of the tool, but that's just what they decided to do. And you can see you got the crimper right there as well, and then you have this little leveled out part here, or this ground down part right here. That is if you have to grip onto something, so if you need to get like a screw or something and you wanted to pry it out, that is what that for is, so the pliers, they don't slip. And then coming to the nose of the plier, you can see you have a nice cross hatch design on top of there. And then you have these filed down edges on the side, which is for if you needed to remount some copper or conduit pipe after cutting it. Obviously, this is going to be for the larger scale pipe and mainly for conduit. I believe the older version of this tool had teeth on the side for that, but they just decided to go with the filed down edges, which most Lineman pliers have. So that is about it for the detail on the tool. We'll zoom out here and get some of the functionality of the tool. So obviously you have the crimper down here, and it works like pretty much any other crimper on these pair of pliers. They all seem to work fairly well. I don't think we're going to spend time testing that, but you can see the tool is relatively, if you let go of it, you can see that they don't open. So that is a bit of a downside, and they are a little bit stiff, so you do have to put some oil on the joints. And as you can see, I did oil mine up, and they are still pretty stiff, so I definitely have to work these in a little bit more. So we'll get to some functionality of the tool. So we're going to first start off with some 18 gauge solid wire right here and see how well we can cut through that. We'll go ahead and cut that old terminal off right there. And as you can see right there, you are able to cut that terminal off no problem. Now, I am kind of surprised that when you cut the wire, it doesn't like eject the wire like some Lineman pliers do. Kind of just like pinches the wire, and you sometimes have to maneuver the wire to get it cut all the way through. So that was with the 18 gauge solid wire. So now we're going to bring in some 18 gauge stranded wire right here. We'll go ahead and see how well we can cut through that. And as you can see right there, you can cut through it, but as you can see, it doesn't quite cut through it all the way. You have to like pull the wire back from it. So we'll go ahead and set that off to the side right there, and we'll bring in some solid wire right here. So we're going to bring in some 14 gauge solid wire and see how well we can cut through that. And as you can see, we are able to cut through that 14 gauge solid wire no problem. And again, you still kind of have to tear that final piece of insulation off. So we'll go ahead and set that guy off to the side. And we will bring in some 14 gauge stranded wire right here. Go ahead and cut that old terminal off. And as you can see, you do kind of have to tear it just to get it to rip that final way. So that was with the 14 gauge stranded wire. Now we're going to bring in some 12 gauge stranded wire right here. And we're going to go ahead and cut that terminal off of there. And as you can see right there, you are able to cut through it, but you just kind of have to pull off that little wire. One way around that is if you're holding the wire, you just pull it and tear it with that. No problem. But some pliers, some of the pliers we have tested here on the channel, you can literally just cut the wire and it just ejects the wire off onto the other side. So now we have some 12 gauge wire, stranded wire right here. So go ahead and cut that guy off. And as you can see, if you just pull away on it, you can, get it to pull off and cut that wire, no problem. So now we'll bring in some 10 gauge stranded wire and see how well we can cut through that. And go ahead and cut through that, no problem, as you can see right there. And it is nice that these are high leverage design, so you really don't have to put that much effort into it, and you can almost cut the wire with your hands all the way at the back of the plier. You don't need to have them super close, but as you can see right there, it cuts through that 10 gauge stranded wire, no problem whatsoever. So now we'll bring in some 18.5 thermostat wire and see if we can cut through that. So as you can see right there, it is getting hung up on that insulation. As you can see, we're pulling it out of the wire. So go ahead and pull that all the way out. As you can see, that's a pretty common thing with this with these thermostat wire, that insulation. A lot of pliers do struggle to cut through that. And you've seen that on the channel multiple times. So go ahead and clear some stuff out of there. So now we're going to bring in some 14-2 with ground Romex wire and see if these Lineman pliers can cut through that. So this is going to be cutting through 3 14-gauge wires at the same time. And as you can see right there, we are able to cut through that no problem whatsoever. We'll go ahead and do that one more time. And as you can see right there, you are able to do it no problem whatsoever. So we'll go ahead and set that off to the side. And we'll bring in our 12-gauge Romex wire, or 12-2 with ground Romex wire, and see how we are able to cut through that. And you are able to do it with one hand, but you definitely have to apply a lot more force on the 14-gauge. But as you can see, you are able to cut through that no problem whatsoever. So we'll go ahead and throw that off to the side, and we'll get that out of there. Now, one final thing I like to test with some Lineman pliers is how well they can strip a wire. Because a lot of the times, especially when doing a lot of, installs of new ACs, a lot of the times when we're doing an install and we have to run a new disconnect and a new whip to the unit, we're working with 10 or 8 gauge stranded wire, and most of the standard wire strippers out there, including the ones that I carry in my bag, they only go up to 12 gauge stranded wire. So you kind of are screwed when you need to strip that wire. So I do like to use the Lineman pliers to do so. Some guys like to use the 12 gauge stripping a hole, but I don't, because I always seem to end up nicking the wire. That's why I like to use the Lineman pliers instead. So I do like to see how well the pliers can strip a wire. And as you can see, it is a little bit sorry about that, it is a little bit hard to do, but you are able to strip that 10 gauge wire no problem whatsoever. So overall, go ahead and clear that stuff out of the background. These are a nice pair of Lineman pliers from Milwaukee. Now, are they the best ones out there? Most definitely not. There's definitely a lot better ones out there than these Milwaukee ones. Some people have mixed opinions about Milwaukee hand tools. It's either they like them or they hate them. And I'm kind of, in between. I have some Milwaukee hand tools that I absolutely love and they work great, but I also have some others that are just awful and I don't even use them anymore. So it's up to your personal preference. I know Milwaukee just likes to have their hands in everything. They like their tools and their names to be out there on pretty much everything, so they want guys to run all Milwaukee stuff. But definitely, it's up to your preference if you want to use these or not. I'm just showing you how well they work. But with that being said, that's all I have for this video. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. And if you are new to the channel and you want to see more content like this, please consider hitting that subscribe button. But that's all I have for this video, so thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next video to be uploaded.